hey, that's still some of our...
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Writing Life. I'm Stephen W. Long, and my guest today really is special for a couple of reasons, and I want to preface this a little bit before we talk about poetry today. Mike Santone has been a friend and mentor for really all the time that I've been here, and Mike, you helped me at Arts Alliance for the newsletter, and that goes back a ways. But more recently, the truth is, we wouldn't have a show if it weren't for Mike. So I just owe him so much. But that's by way of introduction. Hello, Mike.
Hi.
The show's about writing. You're a writer in really several genres. And we're not going to talk about all of them. It's just going to be poetry, except I want to mention screenwriting. You've done that. I think essay, fiction, and poetry.
Yeah.
So,
Do all of those.
done all of them. So, we're going to kind of talk about the outlets locally for poetry, and let's start with poetry while you wait. To describe what that is and why and so on.
Okay. Yeah, I got that idea from reading an article about some poets in Chicago.
Okay.
And the name of the article was Poetry While You Wait. And it described these poets getting a table and setting up in an opera house. And they were raising money for their poetry club.
Okay.
And they said they had a sign, and people come getting ready to go to the opera, and they said, give us a topic while you watch the opera. We'll write a poem. And they had typewriters.
Right.
And they
I
gave the
know
poem.
what those are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
And then they would get a poem, and I thought that is a great idea.
Yeah.
And so I basically went to one of the wine places and said, Ransom's tasting room right next to Nick's.
Sure.
I said, would you be interested in letting us set up a poetry table here, and do a fundraiser for the? And I talked to Courtney Terry at the library.
Oh, sure.
As a fundraiser for the library. And they said, sure, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So we, last fall, we set up a table and basically put up a sign and said, Poetry While You Wait.
Yeah.
And people gave us topics. Let me give you some of the...
I'd love that.
Some of the kinds of... We got topics like oak tree. I want a poem about an oak tree.
Okay.
A dark-haired girl named Rachel. Getting started. A friend starting chemo. Salsa. Kids, teenage kids.
Okay.
So you can see we had these amazing range of poems. One of my favorites was this folks came in and they had a goat that was abandoned, a baby.
Okay.
And they wanted a poem about this goat. You want to hear it?
I do.
Okay. This is mine. There were a couple of us, and I'll tell you the number of poets, because I went around and gathered poets to help with this. But here's whose baby goat are you? I don't know who my dad is, but I know my mom. Hey, he may love me. I hope he does. My mom loves me. She keeps me warm and protects me from that mean goose who attacks me in our drafty barn. When I grow up, I'll miss knowing my dad. I'll wonder if he's old Stinky Jim or Sweet Bart the Gimp. My mom's family never liked either one of them. So I guess I'm my mom's kid.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, and the people really liked it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the folks that I gathered poets. There's a lot of poets in the local area.
Yeah, and good ones too.
Yeah. So let me tell you their names.
Sure.
Bob Sennheiser,
Right.
who we know, who's been on the show.
Sure.
Lucy Halfline, She's a retired librarian, legal librarian.
Huh.
She's a terrific poet, terrific.
And did you say she's a singer as well?
As well, yes.
Yeah, I don't
a
know
beautiful
her, but
voice,
okay.
beautiful voice. A woman who lives in Newburgh, Priscilla Lowry.
Okay.
She's also really good. A local teacher, David Holmes.
Oh, I know Dave, sure, and he's been on the show.
Yeah, and Bruce Shanigan. Shanigan.
Now, are you all together all the time?
What it amounts to is it starts at 8 o'clock, at 4 o'clock
Okay.
in the afternoon and goes till 8. I usually get there and set up the table, and I'm there, and then usually Bruce and Lucy and Dave and people dribble in as time goes on.
Okay.
But there for a while, yeah, we're all there through about 6:30 to 8. 5:30.
More than one typewriter, I guess.
More than one typewriter.
Yeah.
I usually I have two,
Okay.
and Lucy brings one, and Priscilla brings one.
Okay.
And then I also bring my computer because I can't spell. So I use that for spell check. But yeah, we type them up
Okay.
and hand them out. And it's fun.
I'll say Bob is in my critique group, and someone, I don't think it was him, because I think he was intimidated, but somebody wanted a poem, I think was it a daughter's anniversary, wedding anniversary?
Yeah,
And,
and Lucy wrote that one.
Okay.
And they read it at the I think it was a wedding,
Okay.
and they wedded at the ceremony.
Yeah, isn't
Yeah.
that great?
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's the genesis of that, and we took the winter off, so we didn't do through, I think, November, December, January. And
Pretty
February.
rough weather-wise.
Weather, and
Yeah.
so yeah. So we started up again, and we've been making about $100 a donation to the library a month.
Okay. Now, and
It's on the third Friday, the art walk.
I was going to say, so really that's $100 per session because you do it once a month.
Yeah,
Is that right? Yeah.
yeah, but average.
Yeah.
Because some people are, it depends. If they come in on a party, they're more generous.
Yes, I would imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, we've done that. Some of the people in that group that does the Poetry While You Wait are also in the second Monday writing group. It's called Working Writers Workshop.
Okay.
That Carolyn
Oh,
O'Brien.
working draft. Working draft.
draft.
Yeah, yeah.
That Carolyn coordinates.
Sure.
And some of the people are in there, Bob.
Yeah.
And then others go to the 10 Oaks open mic
Right.
on the first Thursday.
Okay.
It starts tomorrow. I mean, it's because they took the
Right.
summer off.
Okay.
They take the summer off.
Okay.
And they do all through the winter and spring, the first Thursday at
And
10 Oaks.
they have, I think, typically a featured poet,
Yes, a featured
and
poet.
then it's an open
And then
mic.
open mic.
Yeah.
And a number of the people, Dave Holmes, Lucy,
Yeah.
Bob, Bruce, Priscilla.
Right.
Really, that's kind of where I gathered them.
Yeah.
And
you've read there.
oh yeah, I read there almost every time.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. Reading poetry is it's one of those things that it's an oral thing.
Sure.
Just like this town is getting more and more venues for poets to come out. Like, for example, the 10 Oaks one, sponsored by the library. And then the 10 Oaks also has another improv kind of event, and they call that paintings to poetry.
Okay.
And it's coming up too, I think, this month or maybe in October. They have 4 of those a year. You come into the gallery, and you look at the art. Then and that's about 6 o'clock. You have about an hour.
So that's spontaneous. You're doing it right there.
Yeah, you have about an hour. You pick a painting, and then you write a poem.
Yeah.
To that painting.
Right.
And then they have an open mic where you read
it. Okay.
Afterwards, and that's really fun. Because one of the things I didn't bring it with me, but I had a poem that I wrote there.
Yeah.
And they shared it. They share them with the artist.
Right.
They share the poems with the artist, and sometimes they even post the poems next to the work.
Along with it, yeah.
And they shared my poem to this artist, and she contacted me. She wanted to put it on her website.
Oh, nice.
With the painting, and the thing is, it was about a little painter. That's what they call a boat that's being a little rowboat that's pulled behind
okay. No, I didn't know that.
I think that they're called painters.
Okay.
But anyway, it was a little boat that gets pulled behind another boat.
Sure.
And it was up on blocks and clearly ignored. And my poem sort of went to that, about being retired and worried about what comes next. And she said that it was from Alaska, and she said she had that same feeling when she walked by that boat every day from her home, and she felt like my poem captured just what she was feeling.
That's great. I was going to say, and I think it's great when that happens, and some things do evoke almost automatically those, like a default. That's that feeling. On the other hand, I thought what you were going to lead to is how an artist would say, "Oh, I didn't see it like that. I didn't see my painting like that."
Yeah.
You know, that you saw something different. Because I think in art, whether it's poetry or whatever, the interpretation is up to the recipient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course the Mecca, which I never can remember what it all stands for.
McMinnville Center for the Arts.
Center for the Arts. Yeah. They have an open mic.
Yeah.
And I think you were at one where
Yes.
they had that. Yeah, that was an open mic where you and Charlie Price and somebody else, I forget, talked about novels and stuff.
Well, yeah, we did a talk about, each of us talked about our book, but then I was also at just a poetry reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things I got out of that was the difference, maybe like an analogy of writers as track and field.
Oh.
So novelists are be more like,
long distance.
Marathon. Marathon. Short stories or half novels.
Right.
15-milers.
Yeah.
And poets are more like 100-yard dash.
Out of the gate.
Just quick and stuff. So that was fun, because that was an idea that I got out of listening to you guys talking about the novel and what that means, and especially since I've been engaged in a lot of improv kind of things where it's really pushing yourself to reach in, ignore stuff, reach in and pull something out fast without thinking, without judgment.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And it's stressful, especially when you're handing it to somebody.
Yeah.
It's not. It's easier in some ways, because a group I started, one of the open mics at the library, sponsored back in March, I think, was Tim Witzel, and he talked about a writing group. He was a poet, a writing group that he'd been in for 15 years, morning, two or three times a week. They would meet and have coffee, and they would each bring a prompt.
Oh, okay.
And they'd put a prompt on the table. Then they give themselves, in his case, 6 minutes. They each write 6 minutes, then they'd read. No judgment, no anything. Do it again. More different prompts.
Another prompt, right.
Another prompt.
Yep.
Do it again. And I loved that idea. So I started a group where we, improv poetry group, basically poetry sprints.
Okay.
Where
back to the track metaphor.
Yeah, back to the track metaphor, where we meet in the morning and we're meeting once a month because people are, it's hard. Same thing, put a prompt out.
Yeah.
Each of us brings a different prompt, and then we write. And there's usually 3 prompts, so you don't have to not everybody's writing on one. We're writing on maybe 1 or 2, but then it's been developed that you try to include them all.
Oh, in one, okay, that's great.
One session, and then we give ourselves 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Then we read, and there's 6 of us in that group.
Okay.
And that's a real challenge too, because in some cases, because I've been doing a lot of script writing and screenplays, I find myself using those prompts for dialogue and interactions rather than poems.
Okay.
And then that means when I go home, I have the spark of a longer story.
This is interesting to me. I had a conversation recently with another writer, and we were talking about how do you get the work done, or writing styles, what motivates you. And I can't claim that I do this, but I think if you're serious, then the way to write is to write and sit down, and it's almost, it can start as a sort of a mechanical exercise or a physical exercise, and then I think morphs into an intellectual exercise. And he said, no, I can't do that. I can only write when I'm inspired. I think that maybe the prompt straddles those two. And the inspiration, I mean, at least it focuses you on something.
Yeah. And again, they're not meant to be finished public things. They're meant to stimulate. They're meant to knock down judgment. They're meant to bring honesty up, and not worry about grammar, not worry about anything, because what you're trying to do is to write from your heart, and not get the judgment in there. Later, you can go back and say, okay, is this a seed of something? And to me, and that's what Tim Witzel said. He had a book. He said more than half of this book came out of those sessions.
Right. I think we have it in us. By and large, it's there somewhere. But you're talking about criticism or judgment, and I think often it's not the judgment of others, it's the self-judgment. We hesitate because it's not good enough. Yeah. We don't want to be judged. We don't want to put that down, and then it's sort of solidified once it's on paper, and then that's what somebody will think of us.
But that's the advantage of writing groups, especially
the writing group. Yeah.
Yeah, the like Easy Writers, and the working draft one is more open. I mean, anybody can stroll in.
Okay.
So there's a variety of readers, and a variety, and I've been in that group since it was called the Breathing Bridges years and years ago.
And Mike, when is that?
What?
When do you meet?
We meet on the second Monday of each month at the Carnegie Room at the library.
Okay.
And it's an open group, and it shifts around. It's not always the same people. There's a core group. But the advantage there is that you really do have a mix of readers. So you get a mix of reactions. But because it's not all serious writers, really, you get a lot of, oh, that's nice.
Well, I was going to ask you about
and
that.
And that isn't always the best
That's not
criteria.
particularly helpful.
No.
I was almost feared the other, and the other would be, again, this is not helpful, but when somebody says, well, that doesn't work for me. Well, what does that mean? You know, that's sort of based on, I think that's ego.
Yeah.
It's like I'm smarter or I'm better or something, but that's not helpful.
Well, unless they follow it with why. If they,
It could be.
you can say that to me. If it doesn't work for me, I better have a reason. I better know why it doesn't work for me.
Right.
You know, the rhythms are wrong. I don't like how the voice is
Right.
coming through, and that's it's my own. You know, everybody hears a voice differently. Writers are always searching for that voice.
Sure.
And the voice to talk to the reader.
Yeah.
Some readers are going to talk to, some readers we're not going to talk to.
Yeah, yeah. It's such an individual thing, and as is all art. But
yeah, it is wonderful to back to the Poetry While You Wait.
Yeah.
Because somebody will say, I want a poem about. Let's see if I've got one that. Poem about. Did I bring it? Here's a poem that people had two old dogs.
Okay.
Two old dogs. Two old black dogs. Two old friends. All these years we've been together, you've scratched our heads and let us lean against you. We've moved with you out of the heat to the cool green yard and shaggy trees. When someone comes to the door, we need to smell who they are, determine their intentions, and protect you with our lives. Our muzzles are gray. We tire sooner than we used to. But when we see you, our tails sing our joy. Friendship is a precious gift.
Oh, that's nice.
So, the people that got this, they teared up.
You know, I can see why. I mean, our pets are so important to us. Now, just a mechanical question. You have a copy, but you gave something to them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
How did you retain?
Phones.
Oh, take a picture, probably.
People take phones. We take, because we have an idea that maybe we will do a book.
Oh, great.
At some point.
Great.
Here's another one. A while back, in June and then in July, Argyle Winery in Dundee had a art in the garden event where they invited artists to come and paint in the garden.
Okay.
And they reached out to me and said, "Do you know any poets that want to come and do it?" So I, sent it out to everybody, and I showed up.
Yeah.
And wrote a poem there in the garden.
Let's hear it.
So here it is. The Garden of Argyle. A daddy long-legged spider rests on a thin gray-blue leaf, thinking, this is a friendly place, and contemplates its next move. White tan aisles of crushed rock weave with relaxed purpose through confident, spiky grasses and slender stalks of demure flowers. There are sounds like sacred places of historic times, with dinosaurs roaring and screeching coming through the deep wall of foliage. The garden is a moat between the stream of life and the magic castle of wine and smiles. And they posted it up with the other things. There are a lot of venues opening up to writers that are not just sitting in our little dens typing away.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you think that we're special, or do you think we're unusual, we being the city or this area? And the reason I say that, because didn't you live in the Bay Area?
No.
At one point you didn't. Okay.
I'm a Portland,
Portland.
born
Okay. Well, nevertheless.
Oregonian.
Okay, so that's an urban area, has a college and so on, or some
Oh, yeah.
colleges. Certainly, this is a college town, and I think that that influences us. But I don't know that I've ever been someplace that is so accepting of poetry, has so many venues for the expression, and I just wonder if we're unique.
I don't know. I do know that it takes people.
Yeah.
The Arts Alliance of Yamhill County
Yeah.
has been an organization, maybe 30 years. They've promoted all of the arts.
Sure.
And with Barbara Drake and the starting of Terroir,
Yeah.
it really started to move writing into into the consciousness of the area.
The community, yeah.
More so than before, although the Arts Alliance did promote lots of, like the Paper Gardens Writing Contest, which is
And
26
this show,
years
I
old.
might add.
Huh?
And this show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and the
Right.
Arts Alive and this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so they've really, for a small town of 30-some thousand.
Right.
You know, and not only just McMinnville, but the county. I
sure.
think also it goes with some of the winery. The wineries seem to have more a sensibility of art and those kinds of things. And I
You
think
certainly
they
see
help.
fine art, and I think you're right, and just a plug for Oregon Wines, I think we're different there too, because there's a sense of cooperation among the wineries, where in another area I think it would be competition. And I think we're kind of known for that, for helping each other.
Yeah, and you know, we still have a bookstore.
Yeah, yay, Third Street.
I mean, you know, there's
That's
a
right.
lot of towns that don't have bookstores
Sure.
anymore. And to me, that's a judge of a town.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go to a town and they don't have a bookstore, I go,
Something's wrong.
yeah.
Well, Mike, we're going to run out of time in just a minute, but I want to go back to something and just have you comment on this. The first poem you read, the goat. Man, when you were reading that, I was thinking, isn't this, it's an allegory, or it could be an allegory for a child today.
Yeah.
You know, a fatherless child, and again, that's my interpretation. But I think that poetry, as an example, can do that. We can talk about things, maybe come in from the side a little bit, and talk about things that would be tougher head on.
Yeah, and as you can see from both of the poems that I read, a couple of the poems there, like that one, I tend to put a voice into animals.
Sure.
Or objects. I give things voice. That's another critical piece of what a poet can do.
Right.
Oh, any writer can do.
Yeah, well, The Art of Racing in the Rain, you know, super popular book from the point of view of a dog.
Sure.
So
sure.
there you go. And I noticed in the Argyle, we were seeing things through the spider. The spider's eyes, his many eyes. But I so appreciate you coming on the show today. But let me say publicly, thanks for all you do. All you've done for McMinnville and for me and for us, and just terrific. Thank you.
It's a way to stay old and busy.
Old and busy? I don't know about old.
Well, that's the way to stay young and old and busy.
Somebody said the trick is to die as late as possible, as young as possible. Maybe that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that's what I'm trying to do.
All right. Well, folks, that's it. That's another show wrapped up. Well, I'd love for you to write to me at stephenwlong.com. Send suggestions or comments, and I guess we'll just see you next time. Thanks so much. Thank you, Mike.
What do you think? We done?
I don't know. You guys want to do one just with yourself without me doing the bonus?
We're done. If they got enough. They got enough.
They got enough? Probably. Okay, sounds good.
Let's go lunch. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just bite too.